This episode of 5 and 5, we're absolutely delighted to be our first one from Zimbabwe. We're joined by Chido, an associate at a law firm in Harare. Chido is going to take us through the economy. Everybody knows that Zimbabwe has had a heck of a time in the last couple of decades, but it's starting to show green shoots of improvement. The capital, Harare, is picking up on the banking and legal services side. The economy is settling down in terms of the currency settling down. There's not so much fluctuation. And it's going to be good to talk to Chido about what's happening on the ground in Zimbabwe. Where are the opportunities? How is the economy really doing for the average Zimbabwean? And what are the opportunities for foreign investors to come in and help improve the economy as well?
Thank you for the question. Currently, I would say the economy is doing quite well. We've seen a rise in in the investment sector, mostly in mining and agriculture. And with the introduction of the Zimbabwean currency, I think everyone's now aware that this year we have a new currency, which is called Zimbabwe Gold. That's the ZiG. So yes, it has stabilized the economy, and the economy seems to be doing much better as compared to last year because of the fiscal environment. When the introduction of the ZiG has actually stabilized prices and has made the economy to be a little bit more stable as compared to the previous year. So I would say yes, the economies are performing quite well as compared to the previous year, although not really where it's supposed to be. But there seems to be an increase even in the GDP. Definitely would say the legal, in terms of practice, we have seen a lot of new law firms are forming in Zimbabwe. The requirements to open a law firm in Zimbabwe are not as stringent as in other economies. So there's been a lot of increase in terms of a lot of new firms. There seems to be a practice where we see that the bigger firms reducing in numbers in terms of partners leaving bigger firms to open their own firms. So we're seeing an increase in little firms and the big firms not really growing, but an increase in actually smaller firms. In terms of the corporate space, yes, there's also been an increase in terms of the legal market with a lot of job openings in terms of corporate legal advisor and legal secretary. And in terms of the corporate space, there seems to be a little bit more stability in terms of job security as compared to the law firms. Because with practice, you see that there's a lot of, can we say maybe the cake is getting smaller. So there's a lot of law firms as compared to the economy, which we might not have sufficient work to go around all the small firms, because there are a lot of law firms that are opening and the economy is not growing as fast as the law firms are growing. So in terms of job security and all, it seems that it's less in the law firms as compared to the corporate. I think growth opportunities would mostly be in the mining sector. As we all know, there's a lot of discovering in lithium in Zimbabwe, as well as our usual gold and all the other diamonds. And because of electricity issues, there's a lot of growth in the power sector because of electricity, whereby Zimbabwe is also exploring biogas and the usual gas, because you find out that at least 80% of the economy is actually using gas as compared to electricity. So we're seeing that there could be a lot of growth in the power sector, given that Zimbabwe is also rich in a lot of minerals and lithium. I would say not really, because if you check, the local universities are all offering, most of them in fact do have a law school, and the amount of graduates that are graduating per year as compared to the law firms and the legal opportunities in the country is really not proportionate. So in terms of job growth and opportunities, I would say they are very little, because we find that even most legal graduates are actually sitting at home looking for a job, and they can't secure a job either in law firms or in the corporate space, which gives a lot of exposure to the legal market, whereby you find that some people are now resorting to like a rented chair kind of arrangement, which, of course, is not acceptable by the law society, but it's because most lawyers now are desperate to look for jobs and they can't secure anything either in practice or government or in the NGO space, and worse off in law firms. So would say that, and not only are we looking at the local universities, but we're also looking at international universities, because you see with law it's very difficult for you to practice in a foreign jurisdiction. So you end up seeing most foreign law students are coming back to Zimbabwe. So it's putting a lot of pressure on the employment structure in Zimbabwe, both local universities and foreign students. I think there's been a lot of changes in Zimbabwe, which are very positive. A lot of our laws have been aligned to the international best practices. We have a lot of our investment environment has become very friendly to the international market. We have the incorporation of the ZIDA, which is the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, which is a one-stop shop for all investors, which has made it more easier for investors to come in Zimbabwe and to invest. And our laws have actually tried to make it user-friendly for investors. We also have the Companies Act, which has been redone in terms of the old act. We now have the Company and Business Entities Act, which has made it more transparent for investors to come in Zimbabwe and to invest. So I think Zimbabwe is very open for foreign internationals, which is the growth that I would see in Zimbabwe, especially in the mining industry, as I've mentioned before, and also in agriculture. Zimbabwe is a very country which has a lot of land which is available for farming, and as before, when with the breadbasket of Africa, I think it creates opportunity for investors, even locals, to explore agriculture and the mining sector. So I think those are the two areas I would say there's been a lot of growth, even given that our laws have been aligned to make sure that it's easier to invest.